the progression design is the problem, not the season length. The fact that maybe the peak of difficulty is tied to a time limit is kind of the problem as well. Maybe not so much. I think that's okay. But I think the whole progression thing needs looked at in some capacity, because that's ultimately the problem. And that's weird, because I would usually be in favor of things being slower, because I think slower burns are more satisfying for people. But you do have to contend with the fact we're in the modern world where seasons are seasons. You know why they're called seasons? Because it was once a season. It's seasonal. You go to Destiny, 4 seasons a year. Go to World of Warcraft, 2 seasons a year.
Look, put it this way. You make the game alt-friendly and you double loot. And there's a season every 4 seasons a year like Destiny.
Triple it, please. Not double it, triple it.
Think how much more satisfying that loop's going to be to people.
Yep.
Especially if they're not in a situation where the Mythic Plus loot is the same every single season and you're just getting the Unbound Changeling again and you're bored. That's shit.
Yep.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
So that's certainly worth thinking about. And if loot is just dropping, because look, a lot of the loot, some of the loot inspiration is undoubtedly from the ARPG. I think less so now that Titan Forging is gone, in fairness. But if you want to make like loads of just, interesting novel pieces of loot, don't make it a fucking jigsaw that people got to spend a stupid amount of time getting. If that's like no longer the design, just make it really fast. And if the game is alt friendly, it's not like people are going to run out of progression because they're going to want to hop on another alt, gear that up and have some fun.
Yeah.
That way you'll have the feeling that if you go and do a raid with your mates, like, you'll almost certainly come out with a few pieces that are actually good. That might just feel more rewarding. And yeah, you'll finish a character sooner.
Yep.
That's okay. A lot of people actually finish their character in FF14 and then they stop until the next patch. But they basically never have a super bad experience because of the way the gearing works.
Yep, that's the thing.
And I think it's better we should ensure people don't have those bad experiences.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We talked about this in regards to the Great Vault, right? Where, psychologically speaking, people have a negativity bias. People have a very bad experience, and that sticks to them better than the equivalent good experience. But there's another part of something that I discovered when I was researching the video from yesterday, the one about the Wrath Classic Quest Tracker, and it's how effort works with the brain. So, based on how much, I guess the quickest way to explain it is that the magnitude of a reward or a loss matters substantially more to you based on how much effort you put in. So if someone walks up and says, and takes like a $5 off you, or a $10 off you, both of those are going to be kind of, because they were just random events and you had nothing to do with them, they're both going to suck. But the difference won't suck very much. But if you were trying to win a $5 or a $10, and you lost after you put a lot of effort in, the difference between losing the $5 and losing the $10 would be stronger. The magnitude of reward and loss depends on effort, which means if you get fuck all from your Great Vault after doing a bunch of work for it every week and doing your 10 dungeons or your 8 dungeons now or your raid bosses, if you get fuck all, that's going to really, really sting.
Yeah.
But that doesn't just apply to the Great Vault. It also applies to doing a dungeon. It also applies to raiding. And that's a case where you want to mitigate those bad experiences because people are more worried in the long term about the bad experiences than the good experiences that you get from those things. I mean, it does work where if you put a lot of effort in and get a really good item, it does feel fantastic. But not getting the great item feels worse.
Yeah.
And that's the case. That's the thing that, and like a lot of whenever I talk about like psychological principles, it's never just me sitting in a library going, this is very interesting. It is always based off my personal experience. And I'd like to think I'm a very average World of Warcraft player in a whole bunch of different ways. But in terms of my experience, I just frequently, and it's been the worst it's ever been in Shadowlands. And I think it might be because it requires so much more effort for me to do something, because I have so many walls built up against the games and the experience, as opposed to in Legion, as opposed to in BFA, where I was happier to do content for whatever reason, because I was less jaded by the whole system. But I almost never feel rewarded. I'm always afraid of that loss, of that wasting my time.
Like, you've had some genuinely awful experiences in the game. Like, your Unbound Changeling situation.
That was, well, to be fair, that was statistically average. I got it. I got it after 20 runs.
Well, then in that case,
Scythe.
the statistically average experience is shit.
Yeah, it took me 20 runs of that to get the thing. I worked it out. It was about a 5% chance for me to get it after 20. To a 5% chance. Got it after 20. That felt good. I like that item. I care about that item. But I did 20 fucking runs, which meant that was Mr. Turner Scythe. So that was about, 20 times? That was about 5-6 hours for one item of sustained effort. That's not including the getting a group time, finding a group time, stuff like that.
Definitely more.
So definitely probably closer to like 8 or 10 hours for one item, which means that I'm looking at, if everything is statistically around that point, I'm looking at like 100 hours? 200 hours to get every item, assuming it goes perfectly.
That's a lot of video game.
I mean, yeah, that's a lot of video game.
But it has to be paced such that it's fun. I think that really is the thing. And I don't know. I just don't think it's great. And it's actually one of the things I like about Season 4. There's a purely deterministic way to just buy the weapons and trinkets you want.
Yeah.
And I think that is at least a novel concept, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. That's why I'm glad they're running the Season 4 experiment. For sure, yeah.
That's the thing where they just need to pull off that bad experience, because that's the part that really pisses people off. And I guess that's where you have the fallback. You have the fallback, and that's what they have. That's what the Great Vault was sort of positioned as. But they've kind of messed with it too much. And like the box was kind of that as well, where it's like, here's a fallback where you definitely get something, but you also, the magnitude of that fallback is massive and it's not guaranteed. And that's kind of the problem. It's really, it's hard to describe just how much I feel like the gearing and progression, not the overall system, but like small parts of it and small parts of how it's paced and designed, has almost felt like an afterthought versus getting the content out. And they haven't had time to adapt it and adjust it and really fine tune it. They haven't had time to polish how it feels to play the very core part of the game.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And that's where it's like, that's where I'm losing a lot of my will to play. Because I remember there's very little material difference. I mean, there's a lot changed, but there's little material difference in the game between what I was doing in Legion and BFA and now. And now it feels worse than ever.
Well, think about the times where, I've had what has felt like what should be the average experience, and you've been looking at me thinking like, what the fuck you, how have you got this? This is insane.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I had the experience Matt was having, then I just think like, I don't want to play this.
Yeah, that's
like, actually, these things I do. I really want to get these for power, so I can be a valuable member of my raid team. And this, fuck this RNG, basically.
Yeah,
is where it would go, because ultimately Blizzard have moved the game in a way where it's now a sort of a faster paced seasonal game.
Yep.
But they've kept the gear too slowly paced.
Yeah.
I think compared to some other games. So and here's a lot of lessons to be learned.
Yeah, and here's the thing, which is actually like, I'm going to say this is like the secret to it, right? The secret to everything I say about this, and something to keep in mind when because I sound like I fucking hate World of Warcraft. I know that. I'm fully aware of that. I try not to lean into it. Sometimes it's easy to do. But I am probably, if you sat me down with a fucking addiction psychologist, they would probably say I am severely addicted to World of Warcraft. And I really have to bring myself to try to enjoy it and play it. I have to bring myself to play it. It feels so bad, even though I can feel its hooks. And those hooks have been in me since I played Wrath. I have never not played, even when I wasn't playing much World of Warcraft. Anytime an expansion started, I was like, I fucking need to play this. At the core of my being, I need to play this. And every single time has been feeling worse and worse and worse. And it's actually like pushing away that impossible addiction to the World of Warcraft. And I think so much of it is just how unsatisfying it is to the core of my being in a bunch of ways. Like, I was doing what's my mage? 240 something, I think. I haven't played very much. Got double Lego and 2-piece of tier. And I was trying to get a dungeon group last night. My key was +2 because I hadn't played in a couple weeks. And the only thing I managed to get invited for was a +7, which I think was going to give me a very minor upgrade, if anything. And the entire time I was in that dungeon, I was like, what am I doing here? Because I knew I wasn't going to get loot. So I have a 40% chance to get loot from that dungeon. And that necrotic wake took in terms of getting the group and doing it, about 40 minutes all in, because no one went to summon because everyone's lazy. And it was even it was kind of toxic enough because I was the only one interrupting, and the tank was like, kick or I leave. And I was like, well, I can't do anything with this.
Yeah.
It's up to the two other players to actually kick. Obviously, you're going to go don't pug forehead. Well, I mean, it was 12:30 in the morning. No one I know plays the game anymore. And then I didn't get any loot. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing in my time?
Yeah.
This game literally doesn't feel good. It wasn't all that fun to do because of the kind of toxic element, and also I've done the Necrotic Wake 500,000 times, and I'm doing DPS, which is alright, but it wasn't there. Just the whole this feels good wasn't there.
Yeah, no, the game just feels unrewarding a lot of the time. It's as simple as that. They need to make raiding feel more rewarding, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe things will just click and fall into place whenever we have a faster patch cycle with more content supported by the proletariat.
Yep.
That's the name of the new team that Blizzard acquired, by the way.
Yep.
Not saying that they've said workers of the world unite and make World of Warcraft content for us. Mm-hmm. Rise up in the global seasonal content revolution.